Thanks so much for inviting me. Man, I was listening into some of these talks ahead of me today, and so much great content and insight being shared. So it's really humbling to be a part of this, and hopefully also share some practical, helpful tips for those listening.
Cool. Well, take it away, Jake. After Jake's session, we have another great church band coming. The Life. Let me see here. I'm gonna check my list. The Life Christian Church is going to be joining us too. So stick around, guys. This is going to be awesome. Take it away, Jake.
Thanks, Paul. Well, hi guys, my name is Jake Gosselin. I'm the creator of churchfront.com, and we say we're all about helping you lead gospel-centered and tech-savvy worship, and an area that especially recently I've been particularly passionate about has been live streaming for churches. So today I've got some slides here that you guys can follow along, and I got a simple presentation for you, really just about the beginner's guide to making sure that you're thinking through the right strategy as well as the essential tools for bringing your worship gatherings online. And a lot of what I'm going to cover today, you can definitely apply it to the current situation that we have with the COVID-19 pandemic, because all of our churches look completely different the way that we are producing services for online right now, especially when we're maybe not even meeting at our regular worship space. But a lot of these principles you'll be able to take with you as things hopefully get back to normal very, very soon. So this is the stuff that we're going to cover today. First, I just want to highlight really quickly just online church strategy, and we'll cover that really briefly. And then second, we're going to talk about simple setup for live streaming. So this is where we'll spend most of the time here, because I hope your biggest takeaway here is like to be able to stream high quality content to your congregation. It doesn't have to be super expensive. It doesn't have to be super complicated. In fact, you probably already have a lot of the tools in place for this type of setup. And I'm just going to kind of give you a roadmap of just how to go ahead and build that setup and make that function properly, so that you're using a basic one camera setup. You're going to be able to add lower thirds lyrics for worship songs, and then you're going to be able to stream to the most popular platforms like Facebook and YouTube in a way that's reliable. So I'm going to cover all of that. That's going to be the brunt of this presentation. And then finally, I do want to highlight kind of a more advanced setup that we're using at my church, Mission Lakewood Church. That's where I lead worship at. We're producing a lot of our worship services just in my office here at Churchfront. But I'll show you what we're doing there. And this isn't stuff that I recommend everybody immediately do, but maybe the beginner stuff is a little too beginner for some of you. Well, you can stick around and check out the advanced setup that I'm going to be covering. And then I want to hopefully have some time for some Q&A after. With licensing, really simple, not spending a whole time with it on this, but make sure you go to CCLI or CCS.com. They have licensing solutions for streaming, and you can check them out there. They're very affordable. Make sure you have that in place before you start streaming and you start getting all this up and running at your church. Next, I wanted to cover strategy. It's so funny because I just talked about this for 5 minutes. I get to talk about it again. So there's 3 different approaches here as you approach live streaming as a church. And, these approaches kind of determine the infrastructure you're going to need to get things set up and running. And it also determines kind of the production value that you'll be able to present to your congregation online when it comes to video and audio quality. Also, it determines how much manpower you're going to need to run this thing, to make it happen. So you have the traditional or true live streaming approach. That's the first one. And this is the one that's probably my least favorite for a lot of churches right now. If you have the equipment and the manpower to do it, awesome. The downside is that when you're doing a true live stream, meaning that the event of the time of your worship service comes up and you press the go live button and then you're live, there's not much room for error, and you got to kind of troubleshoot things on the fly, and kind of like what just happened to us right now, right? When my connection went bad and you guys had to suffer through that, and then fortunately we figured it out. But we're doing a true live stream right now, and that's what happens. That's one of the risks. The second approach, what I recommend for most churches, this is what we do at Mission Lakewood right now, is simulated live streaming. You're going to pre-record ahead of time, and then you are going to still do a live stream, but your live stream on Sunday morning is going to be playing back a video file you already made through your streaming software. And then the social platforms like Facebook, in YouTube are going to see that as a true live stream. It's going to encourage more engagement. It's going to push it in front of more of your followers. And yeah, people are going to still be able to feel like it's a true live streaming event. And then finally, the third approach is just pre-recording and not even streaming that recording, but just doing a post or a premiere. And not as big of a fan of that. I really think the simulated live streaming approach is the best way to go for most churches, especially right now, given the current situation, you know, of the pandemic that we're going through. So I would say definitely go with the simulated live streaming approach and consider maybe doing a hybrid. You could pre-record music, simulate that through your streaming software, and then for like the preaching or any other dialogue that might happen in the service, you could actually cut to a live feed of your pastor. So those are the three strategies. Again, I'll just emphasize, I really highly recommend for most churches the simulated live streaming approach, especially because it gives you the ability as a church leader to engage with your congregation during the service in the comments. Like myself and our other pastors love doing that. Okay, and let's continue on here. We've got the big picture of our gear and software setup. So that's kind of, we're going to spend quite a bit more time on this today. I just want to demystify a lot of the tools that have to be put in place for you as a worship leader, church leader, to just capture high quality video and audio to stream to your congregants. And let's just dive in. And I'm going to kind of on the following slides, we'll kind of go into each of these pieces. But the big picture here is on the left side, these are the video and audio sources that we're going to be sending into our streaming software. So we need to have a camera to capture live action video, kind of like how you have my camera right here capturing live action video of me. Then we're going to need presentation software to display lower thirds lyrics. And I'll just demonstrate to you kind of what I'm talking about here. I've got, let me switch back to my regular video, and I got ProPresenter running, and see how it says worship song lyrics on the bottom of my screen right here. So we want to have presentation software that can put our lyrics up so that people can sing along with our worship songs. And then next, we want to have a good audio source. So fortunately, most of us already have like digital mixers at our church. And there's also solutions, even if you don't, I'll talk about that. But the thing is, to make a good piece of content online, even if you're not streaming, you got to capture good audio, you got to have presentation capability, and you got to be able to capture good video, audio, video, presentation. Then we need a computer, and that's going to be running our streaming software. And then finally, we're going to need some sort of multi-streaming platform to be able to send that stream from the streaming software to like Facebook, YouTube, any other social channels simultaneously. So here are some of my recommendations. And I'll just kind of walk through each of these steps of that big picture I just showed you. You can spend this, this just varies so widely how much you can invest into camera gear. About the cheapest route you'll want to go is something like this that I have right here. You can get a cheap Canon camcorder, get a video capture device like the Blackmagic Ultra Studio Mini Recorder. That's what I'm actually using right now with my GH5 camera. Or you could also get the AJE UTAP HDMI, just such a long name. You can get that video capture device as well. That's like one of the least expensive ways to get up and running with live action video for about less than $500. And of course, though, with cameras, you can spend more money for more features and more user friendliness. There's the PTZOptics USB camera. I have one of these, and it's an awesome camera because you don't need a video capture device. You just go USB out of the camera directly into your laptop, and then your streaming software will detect it as another camera. And then the other thing about this camera, you can remote control it. There's so many fancy things. Paul could show you what to do with these cameras. You can, zoom in and out. It has good autofocus. You can adjust the exposure. So when you pay more for a camera, you're going to be paying more for better optics as like the image quality. And then you're also going to be paying, in this case, more for just some convenience of like being able to pan, tilt, and zoom in and have those remote control features there. So highly recommend PTZOptics cameras. And of course, you guys are in the right place to learn more about those. Now let's talk about audio capture. So if you have a digital mixing console like the X32 or Allen and Heath console, Yamaha digital mixing consoles, any of those, basically those are large audio interfaces that can convert audio or analog audio from your microphones to a digital format for your computer and streaming software to read, to be able to send onto your stream. So you really got everything you need in place there. Most churches already have your microphones and all that stuff in place because we're already doing live music every single Sunday. If you have an analog mixing console, you're going to need some sort of a way to convert your analog signal from your auxiliary mix on that console into a digital signal for your computer. And that's where an audio interface is going to come in handy. So Behringer makes some really inexpensive ones, but that's how you capture high quality audio. Then we have lyrics and presentation capture. I highly recommend ProPresenter 7. It's my favorite presentation software. Easy Worship is another great one, and Easy Worship also has a really important feature. Both ProPresenter and Easy Worship have NDI output, which means kind of like what I just showed you here on my computer, is that it's going to be able to send a NDI video feed straight from ProPresenter straight into in your streaming software is going to capture that video feed and you can overlay it on your video. So this is, I'll just kind of show you one more time here. I'll exit out of my presentation. And then here, this is my ProPresenter feed coming in. I don't have a licensed version of ProPresenter on this computer right now, but you see the lower thirds lyrics there. And then if I went back to ProPresenter, I can pull up this cute picture of a puppy. And, you know, let's say this was like your pastor's preaching notes and stuff like that. So I simply have ProPresenter and I'm going to clear all this out. It's hard to like talk about it and point all these things at the same time. So I have ProPresenter running on this computer, and I have Ecamm Live running on this computer. I don't even know what this is going to look like. If yeah, that's just going to be too messy with all the applications I've got going on. I have ProPresenter and Ecamm Live running on the same computer right now, and I don't have any additional hardware or software, but to make that connection happen, it just happens. NDI is a very magical thing. So if you have ProPresenter, you're going to be good to go, and then it's going to work seamlessly with the streaming software that I'm going to talk about. And if you are on different computers, if ProPresenter is on a different computer, just connect it to your computer with streaming software with a local area network over Ethernet. And the same thing, the NDI video it'll just pop up. I don't know how. It's just magic. I don't know how half this stuff works. I just know it does. And it's once you figure it out, it's pretty easy to get working. So back to the big picture. We talked about all the capture sources here with the video, presentation, and audio. Now let's move on to the computer. The thing about the computer, before we talk about software, just make sure you have something with decent specs, like quad core processor, 16 gigs of RAM, ideally, definitely no less than 8 gigs of RAM. You just want to have a decent Mac or PC computer to run this. So let's talk about the software. For Mac, my favorite streaming software is Ecamm Live. So it's very affordable price point. It's got NDI input, easy to use, basic video switching if you did want to add another camera. But the thing is, with this whole beginner setup that I'm talking about, like when you start having multiple video cameras going into streaming software, it can just be pretty intense on your computer. So I would honestly recommend when you're getting started, just have one live action video camera that you're using in the setup. And the other thing about Ecamm is it integrates well with Restream, which I'll tell you guys about in a few minutes. Then if you have a Windows computer, my favorite software is vMix. Again, very affordable price point for $60 to get started with it. Just a one-time fee for like a year license. Very great software. I think that's actually what Paul and his team are using a lot of their streaming tools with. So back to the big picture here. We have our video presentation, audio capture going into our computer, running our streaming software. And our streaming software, even if you are not streaming, doing a true live, your streaming software can still just like record whatever you're capturing into a file that you can then stream later. So I just want you to think of your streaming software, whether it's vMix or Ecamm, as kind of like a video switching hub. That's basically what it is, right? I'll show you kind of in our advanced setup how you can get a piece of hardware that does a lot of this stuff. But when you get going, when you have Ecamm or vMix, you're going to be able to, you know, get your stuff set up, press just the record instead of like sending the destination to your live stream. Just record it. It's going to create a file on your computer, And then you can even edit that file afterwards to kind of clean it up, make sure everything, transitions right, and it's just going to look good. So you could use software like iMovie, Premiere Pro, Final Cut Pro, DaVinci Resolve. There's so many editing softwares out there to kind of tweak your final program feed or your broadcast feed. Okay, and then the next step is internet connection. So simple recommendations: upload speed of 5 megabytes, especially if you're trying to stream 1080p. And then you can just Google internet speed test, and you'll be able to test your speed. Hardwire your computer to your network. I have mine hardwired to my network now, and I don't know what happened. I haven't had that many issues with it, especially when I'm hardwired in. But you know what? Maybe who knows? But maybe I didn't close enough of my apps running in the background. So that's another tip. Close all the unnecessary apps on your computer when you actually go live. And then the final big piece is your multi-streaming service. My favorite is Restream.io. So this is going to take your streaming feed from vMix or Ecamm Live, and then it's going to pipe it up to their cloud. And then Restream's cloud servers are going to work all the magic to make sure that you send a reliable signal to Facebook, YouTube, any other social platforms that you want to share with your congregation. So 19 bucks a month for the plan you'll need to share to like Facebook pages and stuff like that. Again, very reasonably priced. Highly recommend that service. So back to the big picture. Now we kind of understand all these different pieces and parts. We've got audio, presentation, and video capture on the left. Everything's kind of mixed together and cut together in our streaming software in our computer. And then that feed is then sent to Restream, which is a software that gets the feed to our congregation. So I've been talking about this stuff for like, I don't know, like 25, 20 minutes. I mean, I could spend a long time, and I already have spent a long time going way more in depth into every single step of this process. And that's why I did make this course, A Beginner's Guide to Live Streaming for Churches. You can go to that URL right there and you can sign up for the course. And it's just like multiple hours of content of like click by click. Here's how you get up and running with the streaming software. Here's how you get the camera connected. Here's how you do all of this. And then we also have some coaching options available too. If you want to hop on a call with myself or one of my team members, we can kind of help you think through what setup is going to work best for you. Because, as we covered all this, there are some kind of different routes you can go along these different steps of the way. So my team can provide help and guidance to help you make those decisions and have it not feel so overwhelming. So just go to that URL or worshipministryschool.com/live-streaming-course, and you will find that course there. So that's our beginner setup. And I want to encourage most of you, if you're really new to this or just kind of still scrambling to get something together for your church right now during the situation, go with that simple setup. For those of you who are curious about some more advanced options, here's kind of like what I think is kind of the next evolution of upgrading the setup. It's really, in essence, the setup I'm about to show you, like the concepts are all the same. You have to have the same good video, presentation, and audio capture. You put in a streaming software or a video switcher, and then you pipe it out online. But like each of those different steps, you can basically upgrade to more advanced setups. So when it comes to these are kind of the biggest pieces I'm going to highlight here real quickly. The advanced camera setup that we're using at Mission Lakewood right now, we have 3 Panasonic GH5s. Actually, one of them is a GH4, but basically Panasonic GH series cameras, various lenses. And then out of those cameras, we just go HDMI out from all those cameras into our ATEM video switcher by Blackmagic. And when you have these like mirrorless cameras with nice lenses, often that's going to give you that kind of more pro look. Really, yeah, that's what you're seeing when you're watching a lot of the churches like Bethel or Elevation. They're using Bethel uses actually a lot of Blackmagic cameras, which are reasonably priced. Some of the larger churches are using a camera and a lens costs like $50,000. So pretty ridiculous. But the GH5 with like a nice lens, that's like a $2,000 setup. And then when it comes to our advanced, more like presentation setup, I've got our computer running ProPresenter, but instead of using NDI outputs, I'm actually using, I guess, an older technology. And we have a PCI expansion chassis attached to this computer, and we're sending multiple video signals out of a deck link duo tube over SDI. And that the lower thirds lyric signal goes from SDI out of this expansion chassis into the ATEM video switcher. And then we're able to add in the lower thirds lyric to our final program feed. It's so funny when I'm explaining this. I'm like, I hope this makes sense. It makes sense in my head. But for those of you, again, like when you're just getting started, this is just kind of to give you kind of a sneak peek at what could come down the road as you upgrade your system. Pretty much ignore everything right now, or just, you can just admire the cool gear or something like that. I just don't want to overwhelm you with too much info here. Then the next step, I showed you our cameras, I showed you our presentation software setup. The next step is our ATEM video switcher. So what's happening here is like the Blackmagic Design ATEM switchers, it's like its own device, and they make multiple versions of it. There's a mini version. We have the television studio. We could put up to 8 different video inputs into it. And what's cool is this one device is dedicated to making those video cuts and like processing all that stuff rather than it happening on your computer and really being intense on your computer. It happens in this other device. It's seamless. It's really smooth and reliable. So we have 3 camera angles right now running into that, along with our lower thirds lyrics. And that's what's producing the end video that we have that you see streamed on our church's social platforms. Then another improvement we've made to make this is kind of another advanced tip, is to have like pro level broadcast audio, is to use a Pro Tools template from Bethel. Actually, not from Bethel. It's from Luke Hendrickson, who is the broadcast engineer at Bethel. But he's created this template to make it so that you can have broadcast audio that sounds pretty much just like Bethel. It's like this is literally the same plugins, the same parameters, the same everything that they use. And it like sounds so phenomenal. Even like, I'm surprised, our little worship band at our church, like I cannot believe how good it sounds because of this template. So I highly recommend that if you're looking to up your game audio wise. Then what we're using is we're just capturing video right now with Wirecast. There's actually multiple pieces of software we could use to capture our final program feed, but I just find it easy to whip open Wirecast. We all set up in our studio. I press play in Ableton Live. And then actually, I don't even think I mentioned that here. No, I didn't even mention that here. So we're using Ableton Live to automate all of our camera angle changes on the ATEM switcher. It automates our lyrics changes in ProPresenter. And then basically Wirecast is capturing the final product of all of this. So after, like when we do our rehearsal / worship capture nights right now in our studio, like we run through all the songs once to rehearse them, make sure everything's working. And then the second time we like record it. And then when we're done, I have a video file that I could have streamed it if we wanted to do it live, and it sounds great. But we just have the video file recorded. And then I combine that with our pastor's sermon, and then we do a simulated live stream. So just, you guys may be wondering, like, why would you spend thousands of dollars on all this gear and like go through all this automation stuff, this complicated setup? The reason being is it makes this whole workflow so quick and efficient. We're not having to edit a multicam video project after the fact. We're not overlaying our lyrics in Final Cut Pro after the fact. Like, it's all done in the moment. And like I said, it could be streamed live if we did it truly live. But in this case, we pre-record it, the video file's done, ready to go, and then we publish it as a simulated live stream on Sunday. So here's kind of like the final product. I just took some screen grabs from our YouTube channel. This is our one angle on the left here, top left. The top right is the second angle on the side, and then we just have the angle of hands on piano as a third angle right there. I even put like a letterbox on it, put the lower thirds lyrics at the bottom. That's it. That's how we configure our more advanced streaming setup. So I know I'm talking like 100 miles an hour. Go to my YouTube channel, because I have so many videos that every piece of these things, like all these different pieces within the past 2 weeks of videos on my channels, I've really kind of unpacked a lot of these things in like 10 to 20 minute videos. So definitely go check that out. And like I said, you can check out our live streaming course as well. And let me see, I'll move my little video here so you can actually see what's going on. Worshipministryschool.com/live streaming course. That's really going to get you up and running with that basic setup that we covered earlier. And at this point, Paul, I think I've talked long enough, probably too much. But what questions do you guys have? Or I can also do, questions in the breakout after as well.
Awesome. Well, there are definitely some questions coming in. But yeah, everyone knows there's a breakout session in Zoom video conference. I know there's like 70 or 80 people in there right now that have been asking people questions. But here's a question that John asked: why so many simulcasts and not live streams? I think that's a pretty easy one to answer.
Why so many simulcasts, as in terms of like what I was talking about strategy wise? Because I think like it's just easier to have a reliable quality end product. And then also just given the current situation of, we can't, I don't know, we can't gather together as a large group of people at our church to produce these services. Like I don't know. I think doing a simulated live stream just makes sense for the current situation. But even some churches, like maybe when we get back to normal, like I think it's okay to record on Sunday, and then if you don't have the manpower again to do a true live stream that meets the quality that you want, just record everything using the tools that I showed you. Do a little bit of editing and post during the week, and then simulated live stream that service the following Sunday at the time of your services. There's just so many different ways you can go about this. I just it's all personal preference. That's mine.
Yeah. No, I agree completely. Someone else is asking about the way they get how you're generating the song lyrics and the stage videos, but what do you use to overlay the lyrics on top of the video?
Yeah, good question. So I can show you real quickly here. When I'm looking at my screen, I'm going to get rid of this. Sorry here. The idea, as I'm kind of like figuring out how to navigate the billion windows open on my computer right now, the idea of what's happening is that in ProPresenter, you can basically send out like an alpha key signal. So let me go ahead and pull up my primary display here. Okay, now you guys see ProPresenter. So when I go into ProPresenter and I go to screens, configure screens, so here's the screen I have set up. Here's the NDI output. And then if I go to alpha key and I enable that, it's going to take out all the background. I think if I disable this, and then if I went back to Ecamm Live, and then I went back to ProPresenter, now it's a completely black screen, and you're not seeing through. It just doesn't. You're not seeing that keying effect take place. But when I went back and I enabled that the alpha key setting here, that is what's going to make it so that when I do go ahead and bring that back in, now there's that transparency. And again, you're seeing the watermark of ProPresenter because I don't use this computer to run ProPresenter with the license key. but you guys get the idea. It's really alpha keying is the idea. You can alpha key straight out of ProPresenter like you just saw, or like on your ATEM switchers, you can do keying there as well to take out that black background, and it just will see the white lyrics.
Here's an interesting question coming from Robbie. How do you get mixed audio from Ableton to Wirecast Live?
Yeah, so Ableton for us, like we have it going into, this is our setup. We have it going, Ableton goes to our mixing console. We have various tracks of backing tracks, as well as our keyboard is through Ableton. We run it through a Dante digital network. So we get the signal in the mixing console. And then we are, like I said earlier, we're using that Luke Hendrickson template to send all the audio channels into that template in Pro Tools. That's where it actually gets mixed. And then from there, the audio goes from the Pro Tools template all mixed down into our ATEM switcher, and then that combines that mixed audio with our video, and then that is recorded or streaming into Wirecast, Ecamm, vMix, whatever software you use, if that makes sense.
It is a little
It's like,
complicated, but you figured it
yeah.
out. So hopefully it maybe is more explained in your course in more detail.
Yeah.
Rachel is asking, she says her ProPresenter doesn't look like yours. What version do you have?
I have ProPresenter 7. So maybe Rachel has ProPresenter 6. If you go to renewedvision.com, they have ProPresenter 7's been available for a couple months now. And you can, if you have 6, you just pay like an upgrade fee to get 7. And the thing about ProPresenter 7, it is a good time to upgrade, especially if you want this feature with the lower thirds lyrics, the NDI output, because ProPresenter 7 upgrade, the ProPresenter 7 upgrade has been huge. This, like, it was already a great software, but like, and I don't work with Renewed Vision or whatever. I just like their product. But they've made some significant improvements to it. So yeah, go get ProPresenter 7.
Okay, I'm not sure this question makes sense. I'm just trying to read it here. What about sending out the live stream, but to use it with a background for the church service for ProPresenter?
So are they talking like maybe doing like an iMag type deal where like live in the service, you want to pull the video, you want to send your video feed to your screens as well.
That's
That's
what I would
that's what
imagine they're asking.
And then, because yeah, like larger, bigger church spaces do that. So yeah, I mean, there's if you have a lot of like, if you have a good video switcher and some good like video routing devices, um, there's lots of ways to do this. I personally, we don't use that setup because we don't need that in our venue. But ProPresenter has you can add a video input into ProPresenter. So if I went in here, it's been a while since I actually have ever tried setting it up, but I could go in and add my camera that I'm talking to right now into ProPresenter, and then that will be displayed out on our ProPresenter screen. So I'm not gonna try to do it right now because I did it a couple weeks ago, but I could not remember how to do that probably quickly on the spot. So, but yeah, that's a way you could do it. So then what your congregation sees on ProPresenter on the wall, the screens, has like your live video in the background, and then you can overlay the lyrics underneath.